So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Dr. Leslie Mabon. I am a lecturer in environmental systems at the Open University in the United Kingdom, and I'm also a member of the Young Academy of Scotland. We're coming up to the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow, where a critical issue is going to be low latitude and coastal nations and the various challenges that will be faced around mitigating and adapting to climate change. And today I'm very happy to be joined by three long-term colleagues and collaborators from the Institute of Human Geography in the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, who are going to talk to me briefly about some of the issues that Vietnam is facing as regards climate change and how knowledge and science is helping to respond to these challenges. So I'm joined today by Doan Thi Thu Huong, Doan Thi Thu Ha, and Le Hong Ngoc. If I just start with you, Hong, if you could just say a little bit about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, I guess I'm the youngest among three. My full name is Le Hong Ngoc. I'm living in Hanoi, Vietnam right now. I have been researcher at the Institute of Human Geography for nearly 6 years. My major is international economics and sustainable development. It is my pleasure to join this online sharing, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Doan Thi Thu Huong. I am a researcher from the Scientific Management Department, Vietnam Institute of Human Geography. My major is political geography, sustainable development, and socio-economic conflict studies. I have a PhD degree in reason studies. Up to now, I've been focused on studying socio-economic, environment, and climate change in many different geographical regions in Vietnam. So I'm very happy to have this occasion to exchange my knowledge, my experience in researching of climate change in Vietnam. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. And lastly, Ha.
Yes, my name is Nguyen Thi Thu Huong. I work as a researcher for the Department of Ecology and Environmental Geography. I research theoretical and practical issues on environment, human ecology, and livelihood adapting to climate change. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for the introductions. And so to start our discussion, the first question I would like to ask is if you can tell me a bit about how your research activity at your institute supports the Vietnamese government in developing policy for climate change, especially for coastal regions.
My institute has a function of studying in the theoretical and practical issue about the human geography, environment science, and sustainable development. That just in some recent year, we do focus on studying climate change and climate change adaptation and all aspects of climate change adaptation in many regions in Vietnam, especially in coastal area, which are clearly affected by climate change. So we with the interdisciplinary approach, combining the top-down and bottom-up approach, we provide an objective scientific base to the policy maker, and we after completing our study, we always make an overview report and a consulting report to higher level agencies, such as we submit our research results to the Vietnam Academy, Vietnam Academy of Social Science, to submit to the central government, I think the I think we can support to our to Vietnamese government in giving an overview, an objective perspective of many aspects of climate change impact on many regions in Vietnam, such as about livelihood, about socio-economic conflict. Thus, our government will have a clues and basic to develop strategy and policy more suitable with the local region. Okay.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Hong. The next question I have then is about adapting to climate change, because this is going to be a key issue at COP26. So from the research that you do, how do you think that climate change is affecting coastal communities in Vietnam at the moment? And what are some of the biggest knowledge and research gaps?
Yes, we do have a lot of scientific research and all scientific activities, such as conferences, seminars, workshops, and publications on coastal adaptation to climate change in Vietnam. Recently, we just completed a project on sustainable livelihoods of rural residents in the south central coast of Vietnam. We look at the rural livelihoods of coastal communities along the south central coast and in some selected coastal communes. And we also examined what the rural residents are facing under climate change impact, as well as how the local authorities can support communities in their economic activities. And as we all know that Vietnam is among one of the most seriously affected countries by climate change in the world. Vietnam has a long coastline of 3,260 kilometers with a very special geographic location. And there are 28 coastal provinces over the total of 63 provinces where the majority of populations are located, as well as other important social-economic activities. So from what we study, it is clear that climate change has been affecting coastal communities in Vietnam from many aspects. So what can we say that firstly, climate change accelerates the degradation in natural resource and environment. For example, sea level rise causing coastline erosion and saltwater intrusion, or abnormal storm and tropical depressions causing overflooding during the rainy season and drought during dry season. Secondly, climate change threatens the coastal livelihoods in the way that it poses danger on the livelihood capital, like causing loss of farming land, change in the farming season, increase in the disease for livestock, decrease in crop productivities, or intensification of danger at sea for the fishermen. What we like to notice is that the coastal area is home to many rural communities in Vietnam, and their main income is generated from agriculture, aquaculture, and fishery. And those activities are strongly dependent on environment and natural conditions. So climate change poses an even greater challenge for these rural coastal communities. And last but not least, climate change has also social impact on the economy, on health, prosperity, and well-being of the rural residents. But we also like to notice that climate change in a positive way also brings up an opportunity for a more sustainable transition like green growth or low carbon economy. So climate change provides some chances for technical, human, financial, and other supports from national and international community organizations. Vietnam is climate change response. I guess that's what we found in our study.
Great, thank you very much indeed. So the third question that follows on from that is, so recently we had the launch of the first part of the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, summarising some of the threats we face. So what was the reaction to the IPCC report in Vietnam? And related to that, what are some of the difficulties you face in communicating your research to policymakers?
Yes. The IPCC report is an important scientific basis for countries to develop and update policies and scenarios related climate change. This report also provide countries input to represent in conducting the international negotiation as one of most heavily affected by climate change. Vietnam is determined and committed strongly to respond to climate change sorry. Including proactively adapting and reducing emission of greenhouse gas in line with Vietnam's international commitments. Vietnam calls on the international community to urgently strengthen cooperation to jointly respond to this challenge. Currently, Vietnamese authorities are actively studying the contents of this report to update climate change scenarios and incorporate them into Vietnam's national strategy to respond to climate change in the coming period. Thank you.
So that leads on to the fourth question I have. One of the most difficult aspects of responding to climate change is engaging with policymakers, especially in environment, at the local level. And I know at IHGO you do a lot of very good work to engage with communes, with local governments, with communities. And what opportunities and chances do you have in your work to feed back your results to the communities that you work with?
Yes, I think our opportunity is our institute have a very good connect with the local authority, and when we after we complete our study, we can directly submit our research result to the higher level agency through the consulting report and overview report. And we also have opportunity to invite many participants from the national agency, local agency to participate in our scientific workshop, where we can announce when we can publicize our research results. Thus, our research result can spread and can link with the local real situation in the region. However, I think we also have to face with some difficulty, especially the link with the local citizen, local authorities, because until now we still know there is still no unified and official channel to transmit our research result to the local authority. When we do research in the minority region, ethnic region, the awareness of citizens about climate change adaptation is still limited. So that's the reason we have challenged to transmit our research result to the citizen, to the local authority to adopt. I think this is difficult and challenging in the linkage between the research result in the real local real locality. Yes.
And we have several opportunity to back. Sorry. We have several opportunity to back our research result to local authority and community. Firstly, the transfer of research results to the Vietnam Academy of Social Science and publication of study results in scientific journal conference, especially monographs, is one of the mandatory requirements of a result. The second, we can organize scientific seminars to public study result, and in which we can invite local authority or community to join and discuss. The third, when we field trips, we when working with local officials, we all share our results to discuss local application, and finally, we are always ready to provide information and data if requested from local authority and policy makers. Yes, thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. Now, so the fifth question I have then, so another critical aspect of the discussions at COP26 and the implication of that after will be about training and capacity building. And today I can see we have three early career scientists with me. Can you tell me a bit about some of the work you're doing in the Institute of Human Geography to develop young and early career researchers and to enhance their capability for doing social research on climate change in Vietnam?
Yes, our institute young researchers always are created favorable conditions to join and participate in our institute project about climate change and climate change adaptation. Especially our institute always encourage the young researcher to carry out the basic studies at the institute level to enhance, to improve their awareness, their understanding, their research capacity about climate change, and as well as encourage the young researcher to participate in higher level projects such as miniature project, state project about climate change. This is a chance for them to enhance and strengthen their capacity. Our institute also make the good condition and encourage them to join in scientific workshop, seminar, and especially related capacity improvement courses about climate change research and especially always encourage the young researcher to publicize their research result in a scientific journal. For example, in Human Geography Review, our institute a scientific journal. That's the way they can spread their research result about the climate change and climate change adaptation in Vietnam and the foreign experience in studying about climate change and climate change adaptation. That's the good way to improve our young researcher capacity now.
Excellent. So this leads on to my last question. So Vietnam is classified as a middle-income country, and also a country that's at high risk from climate change. So as a research organisation at the Institute of Human Geography, what sort of support do you want to receive from other countries and researchers globally to help you produce even better knowledge about how climate change is affecting Vietnam?
Because we know that climate change is a global issue and it does not exclude any country. So for young researchers like us, the connectability is very important because we believe in a diverse linkage in academy and social science research. It would allow us to reach further in our research on climate change adaptation in Vietnam. And of course, international experience from more developed or experienced country will be valuable lessons for Vietnam. And it will also provide very useful information for our study in Vietnam. And by academic networking, we believe that our study and our publications will be more widely known, and we are also looking forward to jointly proposing and conducting collaborative research between Vietnam and like Scotland and other countries in the world to generate better knowledge and seek for suitable solutions for developing countries like Vietnam when we have to face climate change and look for a way to adapt to climate change. So I think that's what we would like to approach to more an open door to international corporations in social science research related to climate change science.
Great. Thank you very much for your responses and answers. Hong, Ha, Ngoc, I'm very grateful indeed for your time and for your insights. Very educational. I learned a lot about many of the opportunities, but also the challenges you face in developing policy relevant research for climate change adaptation on the Vietnamese coast. So hopefully from the outcomes that we have from COP26 and its implementation, there will be many more opportunities for collaboration between Scotland, the United Kingdom, Vietnam. And I look forward to working with you all in future. Also, hopefully through my role as a fellow of Future Earth Coasts, there can be potential for connecting with a much wider range of countries globally for knowledge sharing and collaborative applied research. So thank you very much again, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.